we're going to talk about the male loneliness epidemic. Recently, a TikToker was eating alone at a restaurant and decided to, pick up the phone and record, because you just do that now. You just record yourself doing everything now. And we're the passive observers meant to interpret this. It's captioned, you don't know lonely, until you have to take yourself for that meal alone, because sitting in a room with strangers is better than sitting in your own thoughts in an empty room. And then it asks, would you go to a restaurant by yourself? And in this video, you can see the TikToker is like literally crying, like tears streaming down their face.
Here's the video.
While eating at this, like, I don't even know what kind of restaurant this is. You're eating like fries and a burrito. Thank you, guys.
We've got tonal issues. Hold on.
Oh my god.
We're talking about someone having a mental breakdown. This is fine.
Okay, back to what we were doing.
So yeah, you can see in the video, this person is crying in public, and a lot of people said this is.
Hey!
It's doing it again. We keep having that problem.
Continue.
But a lot of people are saying this is symptomatic of the male loneliness epidemic, which itself has become not a buzzword, but a buzz term. Yeah. And I want to know your thoughts as men. Do you enjoy going out to eat alone? Do you think that this is something that, inherently is depressing? Because what you were saying earlier, Cody, is that when you're out alone, you still talk to people. It still involves social interaction, but on the other hand, if you were not interacting with people, would that be depressing?
I don't know. There's something about you yourself being the end-all, be-all in a situation, like just being completely alone and being happy with it. A lot of people, I think, they have this idea, or maybe that they're not happy with themselves, or they don't know they can be happy just being with themselves, being alone. I lived alone for years after my ex-wife had left, and that was it's like something I romanticize now and think about, because just being alone and being happy with my situation and being happy with myself was really inspiring, and I got really, really comfortable in it. And then, of course, years later, like I said, I started going out and getting some hot wings and just sitting by myself. And I was nervous at first, but I kind of was just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm like, yes, man, type of thing. And I just really enjoy just sitting there and like people watching and observing. Some people will talk to me, yeah, sure. But sometimes they don't, and that's completely fine.
And no phone? You're not like scrolling while eating?
My phone usually always dies. I don't know why. I think it's because I leave the gym and come right over and I'm listening to music at the gym. But it's across the street from my gym. And I think what it boils down to is people need affirmation, and people need to bounce off other people and get that affirmation and feel like they have value. And I think if people just realized that they had, their own value in some way, shape, or form, and they could be happy with that in the moment, they could enjoy going out and, just being at a restaurant alone. I don't know, you said he was crying in the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's either A, that's absolute bullshit and fake, or B, the dude's like got some issues, he needs to figure it out, because you don't go to a restaurant alone out of necessity. Like, you don't go out at a restaurant alone as a man and start crying in the booth. That's like, I need freaking Don Corleone to stand up, be a man, slap him and stuff, because that's cringe.
You're right. This person does have issues. I learned just minutes later after seeing this post that this is a woman. This person is a woman. And
it always makes sense in the end.
Yeah, if you look up her TikTok account, it's very clear that this person is a female-to-male transsexual, and people are, using this video of a woman who is in a costume of a man to draw conclusions about what it's like to be a man, and I think that's an inherently misguided conversation to have. I was reminded of a clip that Libs of TikTok posted a couple of years ago of a female to male transsexual talking about the experience of, other people interacting with you as if you're a man when you experience being interacted with as a woman before, and how difficult that has proven to be. I wanted to show that as well.
Here we go.
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. I had closer friendships with random women I met in the bathroom before I transitioned at clubs because of how open women are than I've had in my 8 years of transitioning.
It's because you're a woman.
Because women are just so much more vulnerable and deep than men. But to have known, and I think a lot of trans men feel this, is we knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to like have people want to hug us. And to have people want to talk to us. And to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. And people are colder. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid.
What?
But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men. Because this shit is lonely. And I'm an emotionally mature man. I know how to build friendships, and it is still really, really hard.
All right, you get the picture.
Yeah, there's nothing more emotionally mature than sobbing every time you talk about anything ever. It's like, dude, like men deal with stress differently, and that's something you obviously can't. It's biological, obviously, and men have extremely deep relationships with men that they've been friends with since. I have friends that were at my house last week playing spades that went to preschool with me. And I don't even live hours from where I grew up. They moved to the same city I moved because we're all friends. And ask any woman if they've ever had a friendship longer than 6 months until one of them said something at slight or hit on their boyfriend, and suddenly they're their mortal enemies. Sorry, fake compliments and saying, "Oh my God, your dress looks so good today," when they actually hate it, is not deep and real and emotionally mature. And saying stuff like, "Oh, everything they say about how evil white cis men are is totally valid," but also like white cis men are like, they have a lot of suicide, and I totally understand it too, because like they are marginalized and no one wants to be around them and everyone hates them. I'm like, everything you're saying is complete ass backwards and the opposite of what the truth is, which is probably why you can't keep along like friendships, because probably they meet a guy and they're like, the guy's like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And then you start crying, and then you compliment their eyebrows, and they're like, "All right, you weirdo, get away from me. Like, I don't want to ever hang out with this person again."
I just thought that it was strange to take this video and interpret it as having anything to do with the male experience, because we're not hearing from a man. So, being a woman in disguise as a man is nothing like being a man, being an actual man. So why would we think that this is like, why would we think that this speaks to the male experience or like the male loneliness epidemic when you're hearing from a woman? Obviously, you cannot change what's on the inside, and she is underneath it all an irrevocably feminine woman who wants to be treated like a woman, wants to be in friendships with other women, and yet is being validated in this horrific mutilation. Similarly, you can see the same behavior in the woman in the first video at the restaurant. Someone who wants to commune with people and talk. Like, that's how women bond with each other. And yet you are working through like all the power you have against your own nature. Now, if we're talking about men, I did find this one study from Korea, actually, that claimed to prove eating dinner alone leads to depression, particularly for men. It said a recent study shows a man who has dinner alone is 2.4 times more likely to suffer from depression than a person who eats dinner with family members. And that makes perfect sense. It's not really about the dinner. It's, I think someone who is alone in their apartment where they live alone is just more likely to be depressed because they're alone. It's not really about like specifically eating dinner alone that's a problem, because plenty of men responded to this tweet saying, like, I eat dinner alone all the time. I have no idea what he's crying about.
Yeah, well, for one,
The
there's a big reason why
Oh, go ahead.
they're crying.
Yeah. What? Why?
No, go ahead and read it.
Wait, what?
20.
Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry about that. From the Manic Mustache, late as usual, but apropos to being beta, blocked. I didn't have time to be depressed. In my 30s, I was too busy raising my teenage daughter and doing everything I could as a single parent to keep her off the stripper pole. Stay toxic, my friends. Wow. Well, I'm glad that
Doing
it
God's
worked. Yeah, I guess that's another factor. People have too much time on their hands to think about how they feel.
But continue.
So basically, you know, they're obviously attributing it to eating alone, but it's just being alone in general.
Yeah.
And the most unfortunate thing about depression, it's such a weird like idea or like phenomenon. When you're depressed, the way to fix depression is to go out and manually fix it, right? But that is the hardest thing to do when you're depressed. It's like the weirdest thing. Like, you know how you can relatively get some kind of joy out of life, but you can't make yourself do it because you're in turn depressed. It's like a weird like maelstrom. And I'm gonna say the most cliche thing possible, but the best thing you can do is join a gym and go to the gym every single day and use that to fuel that. You'll meet people at the gym and it will fix everything if you become dedicated to it. It'll fix everything. And I'm not talking about Planet Fitness.
And that would have been, for me, that would have been skating. So,
Yeah.
From the age of 12, I've had something that I've been deeply passionate about that I do all the time. And very few people find something at that young of age where they're now almost 40 and they still do it multiple times a week. I talked to my dad last night. He sent me a text. My dad, even with everything he's been through in the last couple of years, he goes out, spends his winters in Florida. He's in a softball league and he's about to be 80. He is 80. He turned 80 this year, and he's still playing in a softball league despite all his health issues. And that's something that he understands that he, benefits him, not just because it's good for him physically, but there's community there. He gets to interact with people that he wouldn't otherwise interact with. The same is true for me in skating. I can go anywhere in this country, and there are people that I can go hang out with because so many of the people, it's such a not tight knit, but a small community. So you find somebody in any town. Go skating, and I have something to do. I have purpose on days even when I'm not working. I find purpose here at work, and I have purpose, in my private life with my wife, and then I have purpose with skating because it gives me something to set out and accomplish, and that is a great way. So going out to dinner alone doesn't bother me. Never will.
It's a learned skill.
Yep.
People don't. They'll be depressed because they don't understand what fulfillment's like. This rings true with a lot of rich kids growing up. Like a lot of my friends that were hyper rich growing up, they're now on drugs and like they're in their mid-30s and they do nothing, absolutely nothing. They dropped out of college and they do nothing because they never had a source of fulfillment when they were growing up. They don't know what it's like. But all you need is to learn it the first time, and you will search for that the rest of your life. And the same thing can be said about skateboarding or gym or whatever you find your passion to be, or to throw all of that negative energy into. Once you learn the benefits of it the first time, you'll never stop doing it or understanding that you can do it. Like when my dad is feeling down, he will go to the shop and start welding. His guys are there, his coworkers there. He'll do different projects. He'll throw himself into a thing because he understands that's what he needs to do to get there. But a lot of people haven't learned that, so they just fall into a little ball and sit in their apartment because they don't know how to fix it. They don't realize that, their friends tell them they can fix it by going out, but they don't realize that actually is true until they learn it. And once you learn it the first time, you'll always be chasing that.
I mean, for me, I've never been a naturally very depressive person. It's not my personality type, but I think for me, it's the ability to just talk to people. Like, I think most women would feel this way. Like, you're at your happiest when you have ongoing relationships, friendships, when you're able to talk to people, not about your feelings necessarily, but just in general, when I have the time to reflect on my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And of course, like, church is a huge thing for me, and regular prayer habit is
that would
the
be
thing
your
for
analog
me.
for that, yeah.
I did go out to dinner alone recently, which I really didn't want to do because I was like, this is going to be so boring. And then it was super boring, and I don't like admitting it, but I did scroll while eating. So I don't know. Maybe it's a skill I'm not going to learn in this life.
I'll speak more to the idea of fulfillment and searching. So there is a point where, because I found something that I love from such a young age, a lot of people in the space, they have other interests. Like they're into music, they play guitar, they play drums, they're artists, they do any number of things. I never had anything else like that. I don't have like a secondary hobby that actually fulfills me. So that's actually something where I can understand, which is like, I wish I did have something else that I felt spoke to me the way that skating does, but I've yet to find something like that. I get it a little bit with work, meaning that when I see stuff that I want to talk about, I get that same itch to go and do it that I do when I see good, like I go watch skating edits and I'm like, okay, I need to get out and go do this right now. I get a little bit of that from this, but it's kind of different because it's also work. So it's not the same. I might feel differently about that if this was like something I did in my personal time as opposed to something I did for work. But I get the idea of consistently searching for more, but I think a lot of them, they don't. They think that antidepressants will fill the void, like we talked about in the previous topic, or they're just going to sit there and can't imagine a life other than the one they're in. But then you do get the people who speak in the space, and it's through no fault of their own, but it doesn't speak to you when David Goggins is running 10 miles and is like, your life has to be difficult. Like, unless you're like already predisposed to want to go find that, or there has been an inciting incident to push you towards it, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm sure very, very few people without some type of corroborating incident in their private life just like woke up one day, saw David Goggins run 10 miles and were like, you know what? I want to do that. Like, something has to push you towards that. I don't know if it's the same concept as like hitting rock bottom, but you need to find purpose some other way.
I'm reminded of that slam poet who said, like, because I don't put creatine in my fucking cornflakes.
Stay hard.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.